Hello and welcome, I am Foulplay Gaming, and this is an Achroma video, a very special one, because we are having a look for the first time at the new realm Warriors of Wishwell. It is the fourth realm that Achroma has bought out, and we are very excited for it. It comes out on the 28th of October, and if you haven't already got yours, click the link down below if you want to go and buy them. But this is a first look video, so there are 60 cards, as in 60 unique cards in this realm. Obviously, there's 180 of them between these 6 decks, and I have only seen 18 of them, which have been put in the Discord. So I'm very excited to have a look at the rest. So this is going to be simply a first look video where we're going to look at each card, we're going to appreciate the artwork, and going to see if there's any early cards that appear to stand out as maybe very powerful. We're not going to be talking about strategies or potential like builds or anything like that. Just a first look to appreciate the artwork and see what is there. So let's get into it and have a look at the Warriors of Wishwell in the card game Achroma. So inside of the box, as you can imagine, are 2 decks, and you always get a player turn card with some of the key abilities on the back. But let's look at what's in the box otherwise. So in the top, you have a little bit of lore for this realm. Now, I'm not going to read this out in this particular video, but there is a copy of it in the Achroma Discord. Let's get straight into the decks and see what we've got. All right, so here are the 6 decks unboxed. Now, just like other realms, the decks are split into kind of like 3 tribes. That tends to be a theme across the realms. So these 2 are paired together. So Tornstein the Mighty and Norso Totem. These 2, Solveig and Chieftain Snore of Briskavi. And these 2, Chieftain Astrid of Lacringi. So you know what? Let's start with these ones first. Let's look through these decks and see what we've got. So, starting with this card then, we've got Chiefess Astrid of Lacringi. She is the legendary for this deck. She costs 5, has 2 shield wall, and her ability is you gain +2 for each Huddler Troll on your canvas. You can see here that she is a Huddler Troll herself. Now, I will explain briefly on this video what shield wall means. What shield wall means is that when the character is being attacked, they do an extra 2 damage back. So when Chiefess attacks herself, as you can see here, she'll do 5 damage. But when someone else attacks her, she has Shield Wall 2, which means that when someone's attacking her, she will do actually 7 damage back. And Shield Wall does stack, so keep that in mind when we have a look at other Shield Wall cards. But a very, very interesting legendary. Oh, that is so pretty. Okay, so this is one of the rares, Lacringi Gardens. Just look at how beautiful that is, especially with the accents. So this is a location with +3. It costs 5, so it is quite expensive. And the action is you get to draw a card for each location on your canvas. And if Leaf of Lacringi is on your canvas, we haven't seen them yet, draw 2 cards instead. Wow, so it's quite expensive, but to get 3 in the resolve and also draw a card for each location, playing that mid to late game, especially 2 cards each if you have another card out there, that's incredibly strong. Really, really cool. So next we have another rare, Huddler Tail Whip. Okay, so we've noticed that a lot of these trolls have tails, so it makes sense that they can do a tail whip. Interestingly, it's another 5-cost rare. Erase a character, so it's an action. Erase a character and a location from any canvas. Gain shards from one of them. Interesting. So it's a bit like some of the erase cards in other realms where you can erase a character and a location. So very strong, removing 2 cards. And you get to gain the shards from one of them, which I guess makes it worth the 5 shards. Very powerful action. Aha, here is our other heroic. This is Leaf of Lacringi, which is the card that the previous location mentioned. So he costs 3 to play. He's holding a little pineapple. Oh my god, I love him. He's holding a little pineapple with a face on it. Again, beautiful artwork. He's +1, and his ability is you gain 1 for each of your locations, which kind of makes sense that he is paired with a location. And if you have Lacringi Garden on your canvas, it's +2 instead. Wow. So I'm just going to bring that card back up. I did say I wasn't going to talk about strategies, but these 2 seem to pair really well together as rares. So if you have both of these on your canvas, then when you play this one, you're going to get 2 cards for every location on your canvas. And this one with the location means you gain +2 in every resolve for every one of your locations. Wow. So an extremely powerful combo. So I think we have one more rare. Yes, we do. I think this is one of the ones we've seen in the Discord. So, Civ of Lacringi, she costs 4, she has 2 shield wall, which does stack, and she also has, her gain is she gains based on how many shield wall on your canvas. So So she'll gain +2 regardless. But if you have more shield wall, like for example your legendary out, then she'd be actually a +4. So that's going to be a very, very good rare to play in a shield wall deck. So now to the uncommon. So we have Lacringy Catapult. Yeah, very primitive. I like it. It is a object of power. Wow, so you're literally attaching this to a character. It costs 2. It's a +1. As an action, you can drain 2 cards from any shard. Interesting. So it's kind of like a once-off use of Drain the Woods from Curse of Curdle Hill. Interesting. Yeah, that's quite a powerful object of power. Lots of going on there. Oh, I like that card. That's a beautiful design. Imbued in the Forges. So this is an action. It costs 4, quite expensive. Deploy an object of power for free, +2 for each object of power in your canvas. Interesting. We haven't seen any cards that relate to how many objects you've got. So presumably there's quite a lot of objects of power in this realm for this to do that. But yeah, so you can deploy an object for free and then gain +2 for every object. So if you only have 2 on your, if you only have 2 objects on your canvas, this card is effectively free. Brilliant. We have an uncommon of Lacringy Way. Looks like some rope, I imagine, or maybe that's their tails. So it's an uncommon, another action, 3 cost. Erase 1 character with any Acrom and 1 location with any Acrom. Okay, so it's actually quite a cheap way of removing 2 cards, but it does have the hinge that it does have to be 2 Acrom cards. We have Eric of Lacringy. He's rocking that beard and top knot. Costs 4. Action. Find an object of power and dig for an object of power. Wow. So you get to he gets to get 2 objects of power. Now, admittedly, that's going into your hand, not on your canvas. So you'd still have to play them. But the fact that you get to find one, then dig for one. Yeah. The only thing with him, though, is he's not going to give you he doesn't give you any resolve. So he is quite an expensive character to not get anything back from the resolve. But at least you are getting double object of power, which so far we can see has been quite powerful. Oh, Magnus of Lacringy. So he costs 4 again, quite expensive. He's got his little glasses down his nose. Look, that's very, very cute. He is a +2, and you can dig for a character. Yeah, that's quite a nice little card. Obviously, we have 2 of him in that deck. Oh, look at this. Lacringy Cliff Dwelling. So, okay, so it's a location in the Wishwell Quarry. It costs 3. It's a +1. And as an action, you can find a Huddler Troll with a shard value of 4 or less. 4 or less is quite a high value, though. So all of those trolls we've seen so far, apart from the legendary, you could fish out using this card. So very, very good. You can get some of those, some of those good rares that we looked at. Oh, that's beautiful. Lacringy Forge. I wish that was a shiny card, but look how nice that is. So this is another location. Lots of cards cost 4 in this realm. I guess quite high for trade value. It is +2. And you get to find an object of power. Yeah, very, very cool. We now got to the commons. So we've got Lacringy Miner. Cost 2. Wow. Cost 2 and cost 2 with the resolve of +2. It's very similar to kind of Drakon from Full of Flutterby. But the fact you've got an effect as well is really cool. The shard value of objects whilst in the player's hand is reduced by 1 shard. Nice. So it's kind of similar to Full of Flutterby, but it's just across the board 1 shard, not even a particular chroma color. But that is also going to be for your opponents as well, keep in mind. So your opponent's objects will be a little bit cheaper as well. Very interesting. Very, very powerful card, that considering he pays for himself. Lacringy Shield Maiden. She costs 2, 1 in resolve, and she gets Shield Wall 1. We've seen this one in the Discord. Very, very cool card. Oh, we do love a few cute creatures in Realms. Cave Snail. Look at him. He's so innocent. So he is a 1-cost character, block 1. I'm happy with that. Lacringy Totem Worship. So this is an action, costs 4, +2 for each Huddler Troll on your canvas. And if Lacringy Huddler Totem is on your canvas, gain +3 instead. That must be another card. Yeah, we go. That's the next card coming up. So yeah, it costs 4, but if you have even 2 of your cards out, then obviously it'd be free to play, which would kind of be useless because it'd be not worth playing. But as long as you have 3 of these trolls out, then you're actually going to make some shards back, and potentially you might be able to get even more. Very cool. And then here we go. Here's the totem that it was referring to. So Lacringy Huddler Totem. So this is a location. It costs 3. You gain X based on the number of... Wow, so this combos so well. So this is the number of huddler trolls on your canvas. So let's say you had this totem out and 3 trolls. It means that this card will be giving you +3, but then you could play this action and suddenly gain 3 for each troll. So that would give you 9 back. So basically a +5. Wow, those two are going to combo really nicely. You got 2 of them. Oh, Lacringy Mines. Look at that. A bit dark there. It costs 2 and it's a +2. That's a there's lots of really good value in these cards. Costing 2 to any card, in my opinion, that costs the same that it resolves in the same turn, it's a win-win. You're never going to be in a negative situation with that card. Very, very cool. Oh, we have got another object of power. Aurium Drill. Nice and simple. Cost 1, +1 again. As I just said, I really like cards that pay for themselves in the first turn. And obviously, we've seen in this realm there are quite a few cards that pay themselves back. And Cave Salamander. Look at this cute little cutie. Almost transparent. He costs 2 and is a +1. Nice little creature. And the last card, oh my. That's saving one of the best for last. Look how beautiful that card is. Even though it's got no reflection on it because it's not a rare or legendary. That's like that beautiful art piece. I forget what it's called, but I'm sure you all know the one I'm referring to. Wow. So it's an action called Icy Waters. Costs only 2. Choose a character. They cannot attack till your next turn. Interesting. So it's a bit like a stun mechanic where you can then, you know, if your opponent has a legendary that you're thinking, well, if I get characters out now, then they're going to use the legendary to kill them next turn. Play that so that your characters are safe for one more turn. So maybe you can then put objects on them. Very cool, and I love that card. Brilliant. All right, so that is the first of the Lacringy, the Huddler Troll decks. So let's have a quick look at the second one. Now, most of these cards are probably going to be duplicates, so this will be much quicker. But starting with the Legendary, we've got Gazelle. So she costs 6, and her ability is, if you have 3 or more trolls on your canvas, Gazelle cannot be erased. Also, during your resolve step, +4 and draw a card. This is insane. So if you have 3 or more trolls on your canvas, then she cannot be erased, which is just crazy. And you get to, in the resolve step, gain 4 and draw a card. That's insane, because that means you get to draw a card. Yeah, that's insane. The only reason why that's not overpowered is, by the looks of it, so it would appear that you get none of the abilities unless you have 3 trolls. Very, very cool. We'll find out more about her, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to skip through these quite quickly because I feel like we've probably seen most of these. I'm just going to skim through and see if there's any cards that we haven't seen yet. It looks like it's going to be the same. So next, let's have a look at the, they're called the Samir Trolls. I think I'm saying that right. It's S-A-M-R, Samir Trolls. So let's start by having a look at the Chieftain deck, shall we? So the legendary is Chieftain Snore of Briscavi. I'm probably destroying his name. Obviously, being a legendary, we've got this beautiful shimmer on the card. He skipped leg day, admittedly, but he is very, very cool with those glowy red eyes. So he is a 5-cost card. He is -2 in the resolve, so this is clearly an Achroma deck. And he has an ability called Rage. So I'll explain this once on the video. Rage is a new ability in this realm that if a character has Rage, it means they can attack twice during their turn. So their normal attack plus then a further Rage. And just like Shield Wall, Rage stacks. So if you had this character with Rage and you gave them an object or another character that gives them Rage, then this character could now attack 3 times. So it can stack up. Keep that in mind. He also has an ability that characters on your canvas get protection during their first attack each turn. That's incredible. So that means whilst he's on your canvas, any of your characters, whether they have Rage or not, on their first attack, they are invulnerable during that attack. That makes Rage so much scarier. And he's a -2, which is generally quite strong. So, the first rare in this one is Briscavi Falls. Oh, that's so cool. It's like the ink is running down the card. Look at that. So this is a 3-cost location. So that's quite cheap, actually. It's Steel 2. I love to see Steel because it means that you can actually keep your shards up as Achroma. It has an action, which is you get to dig for a character. That's brilliant if you've already lost your legendary. And on top of that, this is a lot for a 3-cost card. And on top of that, once per turn, erase a location with a shard value up to X. And X is the number of trolls on your canvas. That is so... This is crazy. For a 3-cost card, you're gaining Steal 2, dig a character, and once per turn, not even once, just once per turn, you can erase a location based on the how many trolls you have on your canvas. Even if you only have 1 or 2 trolls, that's still potentially some cheap locations you're knocking off the board every turn. That's a brilliant rare. That could be game-changing. Holy, look at that. Samir Smash. That's going to be a meme. Look at how beautiful that shimmer is on all of those individual pieces. That's so cool. So this is an action. It costs 5. It is one of the rares. And it is Erase. Oh my gosh, that is a catam. That's absolute wipe card. Erase all cards on other canvases, plural canvases, with a shard value of 4 or less. So essentially, unless it's like their legendary, because I don't think there are many rare cards that are 5 or more, you can erase all cards on other canvases. That is like, you know, if you're struggling in a game, you're playing a 3 or 4 player game, everybody's got tons of cards. I mean, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even affect your own cards. If you think of cards like what's it called from the Draco Temple realm, Chromatic Extinction. Cards like that kind of normally destroy the board also destroy your own board, or like Drain the Wood does the same. But no, this is on other canvases. That is very strong. Oh, right, this is going to be a tough name to say. Brynhild of Briscavi. He's got quite the... I'm sorry, creators of the game, but all I'm seeing here is Squidward. I'm seeing Squidward in that nose. But wow, what a brilliant card, though. So 3-cost rare. Again, we're seeing quite a few cheap cards, which actually, I like the fact that for a Achroma deck, we're seeing cheaper cards, because that means that Achroma decks tend to not have very many shards to spend, so that's going to make this deck much more viable to play. So it's a Steal 2, which again is going to pay for itself really quickly. And the ability is all characters on your canvas get Rage. So straight away, if you pair him with your legendary can now attack 3 times. The standard attack, his own Rage, and then this Rage. Very, very cool. So we have the last rare, which is Gunner of Briscavi. Looking a little bit more blue, a little bit less Achroma-like. Oh, interesting. This is the first time we've ever seen an ability, which is kind of like or. So rather than it saying... you know, ability, you can choose. So you can either gain this is every turn. So notice, guys, this doesn't say action. So this is every single turn. You can either +1 for each card on your canvas with any blue on it, or -1 for every canvas on your plus. That is huge. For an Achroma deck, that is incredible. Because, again, most Achroma decks don't have very many cards which gain them shards. But this rare, you have the choice. If you're struggling for shards, you can choose to gain some. Whereas if you're going on the offensive, you can choose -. That is incredibly cool. I'm very impressed with that. All right, so now we move on to the uncommon. So we've got Briscavi Berserker. So it's got, it's an uncommon card, cost 2, steal 1, that's good value, and it has Rage. Yep. The only issue you're going to have is that because it only has 2 shards, the way Rage works is when you do the first attack, let's say I attack something with just 1 shard, that would still leave him then on 1 shard. So his second attack, he's likely going to die. So really, you're going to want to put some objects of power. Or, obviously, keep in mind that if you had your legendary out, he would have protection. So, yeah, I feel like he's going to be good if you have another object of power on him or when he has protection. So we've got a couple of those. Briscavi Raider. Oh, look at that. Completely hidden face. Very, very cool. So he costs 3. Nothing in the resolve, but he also has Rage. However, he has an ability that when he attacks, draw a card. So although he's going to not give you very much value for the resolve phase, if you're struggling for card draw, you know, even if you kind of suicide him in 1 turn, you could play him out, then next turn, double attack to erase some characters on the other side and gain 2 cards. That could be quite useful. And plus, keep in mind that because he's got a blue shard, he could gain you a shard from that rare earlier. So we now have got an object of power, Briscavi Fishing Spear. I'm seeing a commonality that most of these cards are Achroma and light blue. So that's going to really help that other rare that had +1 for every light blue. So it is -1. It's an object of power, -1 in the resolve, and the attached character gets rage. So they can attack again. Oh, look at that. Man, I kind of wish this was a rare card again, just because I would love to see that shiny, but that's still, just look at the kind of difference in color. That's beautiful. So this is another object of power. It costs 3, and when attached character damages a character, the damaged character cannot attack this turn or its next turn. Interesting. So this is similar to in that other deck where we saw that ice wave. So anything that uses ice appears to stun in this realm. So yeah, if you attach that to a character and you damage another character, specifically character, not object of power, the damaged character can then basically, for its next turn, it cannot attack. So you're stopping maybe a legendary from attacking again. Very, very cool. Got a couple of those. And, you know, it's just a 3-powered object of power is going to be quite powerful. Oh man, this card's almost quite hard to see what's going on here. It's very dark. Briskavi Cave Dwelling. Very, very dark card. 3 cost, steel 1. Again, I'm liking that there's lots of steel rather than minus, because I prefer steel to minus in Achroma decks. As I've said a few times in this video, I do worry that sometimes Achroma decks struggle with their shard count. But as an action, you can find a troll with a shard value of 4 or less. So yeah, really good way of kind of getting more cards into your hand, guaranteeing having a troll. And actually, 4 or less, that means you could get some of your rares as well. Ooh, Briskavi Rage. Very cool. Kind of looks like Achroma is raining down. It's an action. It costs 3. Characters on your canvas can attack That is insane. Characters on your canvas can attack locations this turn. That's the first time we've ever seen that happen. This realm is completely changing up what we know about Achroma. I mean, it really is the evolving card game, am I right? Wow, cards on your canvas can attack locations this turn. That is huge. Cross-realm, that's going to make certain decks really less powerful. Wow, interesting. Briskavi Hunter, costs 3, -1 with Rage. Yeah, nice to have it. You know, it's good to get, again, these trolls are going to help with some of those other cards that have, you know, need trolls to be out. Sorry, I'm laughing because I like how they've done this. So the card is called Briskavi Negotiation, and clearly the joke here is these two people are clearly negotiating, but notice how the Briskavi, which is the hand here on the right, is literally crushing the hand of the other troll. It's like, you will accept my terms. That's actually quite funny. Kudos to whichever the creators came up with that idea. So it's an action, cost 2. Oh, swap a location on your canvas with a location on the canvas. So this is exactly the same as Role Reversal from Fall of Flutterby, but instead it allows you to swap a location. I like cards like that. Good control card. That could be very, very powerful. Oh, look at this guy, Briskavi Thrall. So he's a Munkin troll. A slave to the Briskavi, forced to do menial tasks for their masters. Oh, I feel bad for him. But he is a 1-cost character with a -1. So yeah, nice little standard character, unfortunately, for their position. Ooh, this looks cool. So it is a uncommon action, costs 3. I'm liking the kind of mirroredness to it. This is +2 for each Samir troll on your canvas. And if Briskavi Samir Totem, which is presumably coming next or soon, yeah, there it is on your canvas, gain +3 instead. So that's very similar to the card we saw in the other deck, where it's a +2 for each troll, but +3 if you have another card on your canvas. Interestingly, this one only costs 3, though. We have a couple of those. Dark Waters, we have seen this in the Discord, so it is a 1-cost card, and it gives a character rage this turn. Very, very good if you need to get a second attack done, because keep in mind, actions can be played before your attack phase, so you could play this to then give a character rage. Got a couple of those. Now this card, again, this is one of those cards that I wish was a shiny, because just look how cool that is with the glow effect. I can say now, folks, this is already my favorite realm for looks. So it costs 3. It's a location, and you steal based on how many trolls on your canvas. That's really strong. When you compare it to, for example, what's it called? Achroma Haven in Siege of Draco Temple. That costs 4, and it's the number of drakes on your canvas. So this is only costing 3, and you get to steal based on how many trolls are on your canvas. That's going to be a very strong location. 2 of those. We've seen this one in the Discord. This is Cave Spider. Every realm has some sort of card that's poisonous, and in this realm we've got Cave Spider. He's not as powerful as Rabid Dog or Funguar. I mean, nothing beats Funguar, but costing only 1 to get a poisonous character on the board is good. No resolve, no other help, but hey, it's a quick and cheap way of potentially destroying a character that's stronger. And I think lastly, yes, we have Briscavi Shore. Very, very nice location with a bit of reflection on the lake there. And it's a simple location, costs 1, -1. Wow, I have to say that this deck looks incredible. So let's have a look at the second Achroma deck for the Samir Trolls. Now again, presumably most of these cards are going to be the same, but we'll go through them in case there's any difference. And obviously there is a different legendary. So this is Solveig. So he costs 6, whereas the Chieftain only costs 5. If you have 3 or more trolls on your canvas, and notice it says trolls, not specifically Samir Trolls. So this is 3 or more any trolls on your canvas, then you, again, Solveig can't be erased. So very, very similar to Gazille's ability. Also, during your resolve step, you can steal 2 and draw a card. So I'm going to go through this quite quickly. I have a feeling we've probably seen most of these cards. Yeah. So there we go. So these 2 decks, when you buy these starter decks, just like the other 2, are exactly the same, just changing the legendary. Although there might be, again, some cards where you might have 2 in that one, 1 in that one, and vice versa. But very, very cool. Okay, so on to our last 2 decks then, which is Norso Totem and Torsten the Mighty. Let's save Torsten the Mighty for the end. Let's have a little look at Norso Totem. So, for a legendary, this is arguably one of the most beautiful locations. Look at that. It's just beautiful. I love the smog coming from the houses, blended in with the beautiful color of blue to pink, blue to kind of orange in the background. Brilliant. So, Norso Totem appears to be a bit of a defensive deck. It's got block 3 in the resolve. It costs 6. Whenever a card is erased from your canvas, trade it instead. Now, that's quite powerful. So, where you're going to be getting your resolve from this is whenever someone erases a card, trade it. Now, keep in mind that we have seen that action earlier that can trade locations. So, you're going to watch for this to be captured. But yeah, very, very strong legendary. The fact that every time one of your cards gets erased, you get to trade it. So, it's going to be like, when you have this on the board, if people can't get rid of it easily, then they're going to not want to get rid of other cards, because if they do delete your other cards, it's only going to put you closer to victory. Very interesting. Oh, we've got a Gauntlet. Torsten's Gauntlet. Again, very beautiful cards. Look at that color change between the orange to purple. So this costs 3, and you get +1 for each character and location on your canvas. Interesting. So firstly, before I read the next bit, that's very similar to some of the cards that we've seen in other realms, where it's +1 for each character and location. So very, very strong. In fact, that could arguably be one of the strongest objects of powers resolve phases. And Torsten's Gauntlet can only be erased if the attached character is erased. Wow, okay, that is game-changing. So in normal attack phases, the object gets deleted first. But what this means is once Torsten's Gauntlet is attached, the only way that you can get rid of the Gauntlet is if you have enough, if you attach these, oh, that's not a character, sorry. Let me just bring up Torsten for a second. If you attach these 2 together, then unless you have 9 shards in your attack value, you can't delete either of them. That's going to make control cards much stronger for Torsten. That's a brilliant object. I like that. Oh, look at that little fist bump. Trade Embargo. So this is an action. It's rare. It costs 5. Other players cannot draw or trade cards until your next turn. Interesting. So it's a great way of slowing the game to force other players to not draw or trade. So that means they'll only be able to attack, deploy, resolve. That's going to be very, very useful if your opponent is about to win. Hey, look at this boy. Okay, so I should be very clear that his name is Canute, not Canut. But I'm sure the community are going to go crazy for him. Lovely shimmer on him, looks beautiful. He is a block 2, costs 3, and look at this. Whenever you trade, you draw a card. That's very similar to, even arguably, that's even better than Sprat Morale from Fall of Flutterby, because with him, you can draw and trade on the same turn. But this just means whenever you trade, you also draw a card. Which means you can do it at the start of your turn, and at the end of your turn, and any other times that you have cards allowed to trade. Very, very good character. The only issue is he's only 3 cost, so he could be easily killed, but very cool card. Oh, here is that beautiful card, Wishwell Market Stall. So this is what you see in the background of that totem. We did see this on the Discord as well. It's very, very pretty. So it's a location. It costs 3. Oh my gosh, that's insane. Whenever a player deploys a card, immediately gain 1 shard. So that is one of the only times that I'm aware of where you can gain shards when it's not even your turn. And that's any time they deploy a card. Presumably, that's even if they play a card to erase this. Wow, that's a very powerful location. So Giant Centipede, so that's all of the rares. Giant Centipede is our first uncommon. We have seen this in the Discord. Very cool concept. He costs 4. He's a +3 in the resolve. And you cannot deploy characters whilst Giant Centipede is on your canvas. So that is a bit of a hinder. That if you play him quite early on, you cannot deploy characters until you get rid of him. So ideally, I would imagine that you only want to play Giant Centipede when you've already got a good board full of characters. Or I don't know if there is a way yet to swap characters in this realm. It doesn't appear there is. But if there was, that could be good. But still, +3, very cool. 2 of those. Unfair Trade is another card that we've seen in the Discord. So it's an action. It costs 3. And I think this is brilliant. Each other player must trade. So when you play this, every other player has to trade there and then. You gain the shards rather than them. So I can see this being in a 2-player game. It's still useful in a 2-player game because it's still forcing your opponent to discard a card. And even if they're discarding something that costs 1, you're still gaining a shard back. But this is going to be, imagine this in a 6-player game. If all 5 players, let's say, discard a card of 2 shards, you're gaining 10 shards back. That's going to snowball in those games. Oh, this is cute. Wishwell Storehole. It's kind of like maybe like a tavern door. So it's 3-cost location. Choose a player. Choose a player when this card is deployed. Whenever they draw a card, you immediately gain +1. Oh my gosh. So when you compare that to the legendary, the rare we looked at before, where was it? So when you compare these 2 cards, obviously Wishwell's Market Stall is obviously the more powerful version because it's whenever a player deploys a card, gain 1. But it's slightly different. Sorry, this is when a player deploys a card. This is when they draw. But even still, this is going to be more powerful in... I mean, it's powerful in any game. In a 2-player game or a 6-player game. But yeah, whenever a card is... you choose a player, and whenever they draw a card, you immediately +1. That's brilliant. That is a really powerful card. Glass Eel, we've seen this in the Discord, so honestly, this could be arguably one of the best characters in the realm just due to its value. So it only costs 1 to steal 1, that's already great. And when Glass Eel damages that character, that character cannot attack this turn or next turn. Now, I must admit, when I think of deck building, I'm already thinking of putting some Glass Eels with this chieftain, because it means that this Glass Eel could then attack with protection, not die, and force a character to not be able to attack their next turn. Very, very interesting. But keep in mind that it does say when it damages a character, so if this damages an object, it won't stun it. Very, very cool. The Cringy Way, we've already actually seen that in a previous deck. Trader's Lifeline. Oh, that's pretty cool. So it costs 2, it's an action. Until your next turn, whenever you trade, draw a card. You may trade when you deploy this card. Huh. Oh, I see. Okay. So what it means is when you play this, so when you play this down, it means that when you play at the point that you play this, you can also trade a card. So I could now trade a card now, and then until my next turn, whenever I trade, I draw a card. So I guess to get the best value out of this, if you had this in your hand at the start of your turn, start your turn by playing this, trade a card, then you can actually do your draw or trade step, trade again, because then you get to, whenever you trade, draw a card, so you could draw another card. Then at the end of your turn, trade again and draw a card. So effectively, you could trade 3 times in your turn and still draw 2 cards by playing this at the start. Very, very cool. Trader Pass. So this is a location. Cost 2, block 1. Always good to have some block. Once during your turn, you may trade. Whenever you trade, immediately gain +1. Oh, that's brilliant. So once per turn, you can choose to trade, and whenever you trade, you gain +1. So you're getting the trade value and an extra +1. Yeah, I can see this trading deck being very, very powerful. It does rely on card draw. So I'm hoping that in the rest of this deck, there are some more cards that give you card draw. Because we've seen a couple, but not many. So this is a location, Wishwell Barrens. Very like it. So these seem to be like the support struts of the caves they live in. So it's a location, costs 3, +1. Choose a player when this card is deployed, and whenever they trade, you immediately gain +1. Okay, so it's exactly the same as the card we saw earlier, which was whenever they draw, gain +1. This one is when they trade. So if you have this and the draw one out, it means that no matter what they do, draw or trade, you're gaining 1. Very, very cool. The Cringy Trader. Look at him. He looks like a little Loki's type character, doesn't he? So costs 1. He has nothing in the resolve, but as an action, you may trade. So this is this realm has a few times where you can actually trade when it's not normally the trade phase. So yeah, I can see that being useful to get down if you're really desperate for shards, you could play him for 1, trade a card to then have more shards to play a different card. Oh, that is arguably one of my favorite cards in terms of looks. Look at that. Beautiful card. 3 cost, nothing in the resolve, but once per turn, look at the 2 cards on the top of your palette, trade one of them, put the other at the bottom of your palette. Interesting. So it's kind of like getting to research 2, but you have to trade one of them and put the other at the bottom. You know what? I'm not normally a big fan of gambling cards, but actually that's quite a nice one because none of them are going to waste. You're trading one, and the other one you could put to the bottom of your palette. And that could cause some really good plays where the card you put to the bottom of your palette might be a card that is kind of a game changer in case you need it at the end. Oh, I like that. Velvet Worm, very cool looking kind of snake worm. Almost has a bit of sheen on that as well. And kind of an upgrade of the snail, I guess. Cost 2, block 2. So, this is very much a block deck. Oh, yeah, you don't want to get in the way of this. Falling Stalactites. I can never say that correctly. So this is an action. It costs 3. Erase a character with a shard value of 4 or more. Interesting. So this actually won't work for cheap cards, but it is a cheap way of getting rid of any character. Oh, it's only character. Interesting. It's any character with a shard value of 4 or more. So it is very specific, but then again, we have seen so far in this entire realm, there are a lot of characters with 4 or more, so I'm sure there's going to be lots of use for this normally, but against a dragon deck, for example, this probably won't be very useful at all. And then, not lastly, we got Cave Salamander. I think we've already seen Cave Salamander in a different deck. We've got an Icy Waters. We've seen a beautiful card, but we have seen that before. And the last 2 cards are Aurium Twine. It is an action. It kind of looks a little bit like the tails all wrapped up. It's an action. It costs 1. Dig for a card with a shard value of 4 or less, then immediately trade it. You know what? I like that. In every realm, there tends to be a card which is all about instant shard gain, like Abundance of Quintessence, the palette one from Fall of Flutterby. So this is essentially a card where it'll be useless at the start of your game, but if you've already lost your legendary, for example, it's a really nice way of just dig for a card, instantly trade it, get 6 shards back. So yeah, quite a nice little card. You got 2 of those. Very, very interesting deck. So that is one of the trader decks. The last trader deck we've got and the last deck for this video is Tornstein the Mighty. So let's save him best till last. He's got a bit of a glow to him. He's glowing. I mean, when you actually look at his lore, he is one of the first trolls, immortal and godlike. So he costs 6, nothing in the resolve up here, but down here it is +1 for each character and location on your canvas. And if you have 3 or more characters on your canvas, then he can't be erased. So he is actually, that seems to be a common ability in these legendaries. This is actually the 3rd legendary that has the whole, if you have 3 or more. But what makes him more powerful than the others is Gazelle is if you have 3 or more trolls. So that's just any type of troll. I believe, again, this one was if you have 3 or more trolls. But with Tornstein, it's 3 or more characters. So it doesn't actually matter whether you have creatures in this deck. But yeah, again, very, very cool. So most of these are probably going to be the same, so we'll go through them quite quickly. In fact, this might even be it now, folks. I don't think we're going to see a brand new card in just the last deck. We're probably going to see, again, the same cards. Again, there will be a slight difference in the mixture. But yeah, there we go. So that is the same deck there. Okay, so there we are, folks. There is the first look at the cards from the Warriors of Wishwell release in Achroma. I genuinely think this is going to be my favorite realm. The cards are beautiful. The abilities are brilliant. The ways the cards are going to play look amazing. I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. Was there a particular card that stood out to you that looked like it was going to be really powerful? Was there any deck in particular you're leaning towards? Now, normally I lean towards the Achroma decks, but I'm not going to lie. The Achroma decks in this realm, there was so many game-changing cards and I can't wait to play them. Thank you very much for watching this video. The next videos to go live on my channel, we are going to be playing one game. We're going to play 3 games over 3 videos, which is going to be trying out each of the decks once. We'll probably do, probably mix it up so that they go against each other. So if you want to see how these decks play out in the starter decks against each other, then make sure you subscribe because those videos will be coming out in the next couple of days. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you want to get your hands on these Warriors of Wishwell, click the link down below to get yourself a copy. I would highly recommend it because these look brilliant. Thank you very much for watching, folks. I've been Foul Play Gaming. I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, though, stay wholesome.